On this, the United Nations 75th anniversary of Human Rights Day, the National Tripartite Council, a group of stakeholders from both the public and private sectors, is presenting recommendations to the government aimed at preventing and eliminating violence and harassment in the workplace, including gender-based violence. The recommendations emerging out of the 108th session of the International Labour Conference held in Geneva last year, during which the Bahamian delegation played a role in discussions. Those discussions leading to the ILO formally adopting the 190 Violence and Harassment Convention and the ILO's 206 Violence and Harassment Recommendation. Treasurer of the National Tripartite Council, Rionda Cadet, and President of the National Congress of Trade Unions in the Bahamas, Bernard Evans, agree that the ratification of this particular convention is timely and most needed.
This convention calls for the social partners of each of the member states and certainly of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas to join forces in addressing unacceptable behaviours in the workplace that are likely to result in physical, psychological, sexual or economic harm to another, whether gender-based or not. Such behaviour causes anxiety and creates a climate of distrust and insecurity in the workplace, ultimately resulting in loss of manpower, reduced efficiencies, and increased costs to both the state and to the employer.
The only way we can really sustain a profitable and peaceful society if we base all of our efforts and energies with a common thread that human rights is essentially important to everyone. And all of us needs to be ambassadors for human rights, because where there is gaps in human rights, there will be risk of persons suffering, and when one person is at risk, then the entire country is at risk.
Accepting the recommendations on behalf of the Minister of Labour was the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Labour, Reginald Saunders, and the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Peter DeVoe Isaacs.
On behalf of Senator Dion Fowlkes, Minister of Labour and leader of the government group as it relates to the Industrial Labour Organization, who could not be here today, I am particularly pleased to be here to witness this historic occasion. I am advised that while the entire Bahamian delegation attended the 108th session were involved in the adoption of this convention, Mrs. Rionda Cadet was very influential in crafting the final language for the convention and extremely instrumental in facilitating the recommendations of the NTC to ratify the convention. This, I am pleased to report, may result in the enactment of relevant legislation to prohibit violence and harassment in the Bahamian workforce.
I am confident that the Convention 190 and Recommendation 206 make provisions for the governments to take appropriate steps to address the concerns related to the prevention of violence and harassment in the workplace, including gender-based violence and harassment, and will allow the various agencies of state to ensure easy access to appropriate and effective remedies, safe, fair, and effective reporting and dispute resolution mechanisms,